20 years on since the Iraq War began, these violent scenes remain a defining moment of the US-led invasion. On March the 31st, 2004, 4 US civilian security contractors drove into the city of Falluja, tasked with protecting catering trucks. Masked insurgents ambushed them using rocket-propelled grenades and AK-47 rifles and dragged their bodies through the streets. Reuters journalist Michael Georgi arrived an hour later.
The scene was quite gruesome. There was bodies that were being burned. Other people were stepping on the heads of these corpses, young and old. And I remember in the middle of this, I was taking notes, trying to understand what was going on, when a boy of about 9 years old came up to me and he said, "We took the others, burned them, and hung them on a bridge. Would you like to see them?" He seemed to be some kind of, in my mind, what I remember, a tour guide of death.
The Falluja ambush would prove a defining moment in the war. Far from being mission accomplished, as Bush had declared less than a year earlier, the conflict had only just begun.
In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
The incident in Falluja was a year after George Bush got on an aircraft carrier and said mission accomplished to applause of soldiers. There was nothing more far from the truth. You know, that was the start of absolute hell in Iraq.
In March 2003, US-led forces invaded Iraq, vowing to end the dictatorial rule of President Saddam Hussein and destroy Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. No such weapons were ever found. The city of Falluja, some 30 miles west of Baghdad, was part of the Sunni Triangle, a central region of mainly Sunni Muslims that had been the power base of Saddam Hussein.
Saddam gained a lot of support in places like Falluja by giving them jobs in the army, jobs in the military, businesses. So when the Americans took over, and it was clear that this is going to change, the Shiites will now become the dominant sect. So resentment began then.
Anger had started brewing soon after the invasion began. Any euphoria that accompanied the toppling of Saddam Hussein quickly gave way to fear about sectarian rivalries that Saddam had ruthlessly repressed, and to fury at the mismanagement of US occupation. The attack on Blackwater security contractors triggered 2 US military offensives in Falluja, in which the city was besieged, surrounded, and pounded. That heralded not just more attacks on American troops, but a broad insurgency that swelled the ranks, first of Al-Qaeda and then of Islamic State, miring Iraq in conflict and chaos.
I often think of that young boy and of the violence that day. It was very clear that this region, there's no way they'll be able to stabilize it anytime soon.
When US combat troops pulled out of Iraq in 2011, the violence didn't end. Within weeks, the US had disbanded Iraq's army and left 400,000 soldiers without jobs. Violence spiraled out across the country in the months and years that followed, often pitting the minority Sunnis against the majority Shiites. Car and truck bombs, improvised explosive devices, suicide bombers, beheadings, sectarian death squads, and torture chambers pushed the death toll of Iraqis and others even higher. What was supposed to be a short military engagement in Iraq ended up being an 8-year war that claimed the lives of more than 4,000 American soldiers, hundreds of foreign troops, and tens of thousands of Iraqi civilians. For Falluja residents, like tribal sheikh Salman al-Falahi, the scars still run deep. From the 2003 US-led invasion to Al-Qaeda's takeover of the city in 2006 to its domination by Islamic State in 2014.
لأنه الأمور اللي صارت فرضت علينا، أكو أمور فرضت علينا وأكو أمور أخطاء. ممكن نتجنب الأخطاء، لكن الأمور اللي فرضت علينا ما تقدر، لأن أكو شيء يخالف المنطق والعقل والقيم الموجودة. اللي صار من بعض التصرفات القوات الاحتلال أعتقد كان اعتداء صارخ، من يكون استهداف إلى خصوصياتك وإلى شرفك هذا الموضوع لا يمكن أن السكوت عليه. أعتقد لو عيد الزمن لا الأمريكان يتصرفون التصرف اللي سووه ولا إحنا راح تكون ردة فعلنا بهذا القسوة. كان تجنب الكثير من الأمور.
The U.S. invasion was supposed to deliver stability and democracy, and instead it was mass chaos for years and violence and sectarianism and civil war.